The LA Clippers bounced back on Saturday night against the Washington Wizards. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George suited up, but they had to withstand a Kyle Kuzma-Kristaps Porzingis barrage. How did the duo play, and how were the Clippers able to bounce back after trailing by as many as 13 in D.C.? Gonna be talking about all that and more on today's Locked On Clippers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. You want to find the perfect hire for a new job? Go to LinkedIn, click on the hiring tab, put hashtag hiring, and put the purple frame in your profile picture to show that you're hiring. I am your host, Darian Vaziri, in my 18th season as a Clipper fan. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod, and of course, subscribe to my own YouTube channel known as Dime Dropper for more Clipper and NBA and sports content. You can also subscribe to Locked On Clippers. Please do. It's the fastest way to grow the show. Let's get to 2,000. And I want you guys to comment on today's pinned question, because we're going to be talking about him quite a bit in today's episode, and that is, should the Clippers try and look for a potential Kyle Kuzma trade? Because there has been a rumor of late that he is looking to leave Washington and go play for a contender, because his services obviously came into play when the Lakers won their championship in the bubble, but he has improved significantly since then. His confidence in the last season and a quarter have gone up exponentially since he left Los Angeles. So could he be the good guy for the Clippers? What would you be willing to give up for him? Tell me in the comments below. But today, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the performance against the Wizards, how Kawhi and Paul George looked, how the Clippers came back from down 13 and ended up closing out the game in a game that, let's be real, they didn't really play that well in. I did not think they were going to win watching this game. I thought it was going to be another terrible loss that I had to come talk about. But thankfully, Paul George seemed like he finally got the memo of me screaming at my microphone that he is playing like a role player. And this game, he shot 27 times, which I absolutely adored. Which is, funny enough, twice as many shots as any other player on the Clippers took. Do I think it has to be that drastic? With Kawhi Leonard, I don't. But also, I'm not going to complain, because I was just complaining that he wasn't shooting enough. So when he does that and the Clippers win, I'm totally okay with it. Now, this game was a much-needed rest day for Reggie Jackson. You saw John Wall get his first start, and an emotional game for John Wall, returning to D.C. for the first time with fans in the stands since he had left. They said that he returned in March or early 2021. And there just weren't fans in the stands, because remember, that was the season where we got fans coming back very, very late. And in the regular season, it was just like 20% of stadiums, if that, something like that. So this was the first game that he truly was playing in front of the Wizards faithful that supported him for 9 seasons. Although really it felt like, 9 seasons. And man, they gave him a really, really good ovation. A very good ovation. They clearly love the guy. I know a couple of Wizards fans personally, and they really like John Wall a lot more than Bradley Beal. I think they felt that John Wall gave more of his heart and soul to the city and the franchise. And you know what? I can't really argue on that either. He really, truly was the face of that Wizards franchise for so long. Led them to a couple second-round appearances and is the all-time leader in steals and assists. And in this game, I thought the first couple of minutes, you could see the adrenaline. John Wall kind of wanted to do a lot, and he was dribbling a little too much for my liking. And it caused the Clippers, actually, not just because of John Wall, but that mixed with a couple of tough Paul George shots and a hot start for Kyle Kuzma. A hot start that would extend all the way towards the end of the first half. He had 25 points at halftime. 25. You know, some of them were on open threes, some of them were on lazy Clipper defensive possessions, but a lot of them were on just really difficult shots from everywhere you can think of. Turnarounds in the mid-range area, pull-ups and pick and roll, three balls, catch and shoot threes, going to the basket and dunking it. He was absolutely everywhere. And you just knew, I said in the beginning of the game, right after the tip-off, This game is going to be how can the Clippers contain Porzingis and Kuzma from having big games? Because Porzingis is actually averaging a career high in points right now. He's having a great season, 23 points a night, and he's shooting a very solid 48% from the field. He's been really good. It's funny because Dallas, they're lacking that second guy, and I know Porzingis didn't really work out for them, mainly because he couldn't stay healthy, but man, I wonder if they'd take this Porzingis right now. But the Clippers started out down 10-0, and as I said, part of it was some tough shots by Paul George and John Wall dribbling a little too much, but then they got the ball to Kawhi Leonard, and he shot his first shot when the Clippers were down 10-0 and made it. But the Clippers weathered the storm. The second quarter, thankfully this time, was even. It was 34-32 in favor of Washington, so it wasn't like the Clippers just got blown out or anything like that. But the third quarter was looking bleak. Clippers went down 13, and they were just going cold. And I thought the Clippers in this game, I thought their defensive intensity and energy was very mediocre. I thought that they were second to a lot of loose balls. Even Coach Mike Fratello called it out in color commentary, was like, Clippers have been second to loose balls. They haven't been the least energetic team on the floor in this game. And I don't think they were as sloppy, the Clippers. They only turned the ball over 10 times in this game, which is good. It's a step up from what we've been seeing. Wizards turned it over 14 times. But there was a general laziness to me about the Clippers in the first half. And when the Clippers were down 84-71, and then Zubats came out of the game, you saw, and I'm not saying it's really because Zubats came out of the game, but Zoo was having a tough night, and I'm going to talk about that as the episode continues. But when Zoo came out of the game, the Clippers went to their small ball lineup, and the small ball lineup that they can actually work with Kawhi, Paul George, Nico, Terrence, bigger guys out there, bigger wings, not just smaller guards, which I've been saying is not the wave. You got it when you want to go small, and you don't have Zubats in there, and you have a guy like Nico or Marcus Morris at center, you need to have big wings and only one guy, to me, under 6'4". And that was usually John Wall in these lineups. You had lineups with Luke Kennard as the smallest guy in this game, and I really like that because the Clippers didn't have a backup point guard outside of John Wall. So, you had to, and that's fine because Kawhi Leonard and Paul George can handle the ball and stuff. So, Clippers started to make a little run at the end of the third, and I think it was mainly because the Wizards went cold. A couple good defensive possessions where the Clippers could switch everything, but they started getting to the line. I remember there was a Porzingis take foul. Marcus Morris, who had a really, really needed bounce-back game in this one, shot 50% from the field. He hit a three in that run, and Paul George started to heat up. Paul George, after the initial Wizards 10-0 spurt in the beginning of the game, was hitting some threes where it was just nothing but the bottom, was barely even hitting net. He went cold in the second, caught a little bit of fire at the end of the third. And in the fourth quarter, the Clippers, after going on a 15-0 run and taking the lead going into the fourth, 86-84, they had positive momentum going into the fourth. And it was a pretty back-and-forth game, but ultimately Porzingis and Kuzma cooled down. And they didn't really get much from anyone else. I mean, their starter, Jordan Goodwin, and by the way, if you're wondering who was missing for the Wizards tonight, I can't believe I didn't say that already. No Monte Morris, no Bradley Beal, no Rui Hachimura. So they were very short-handed. The Clippers needed to win this game. Not even a DeLon Wright in this game. There were a couple players I'd never even heard of, like Jordan Goodwin and Anthony Gill. And Jordan Goodwin, the starting point guard, had 17 points and 6 rebounds. 17 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, and 6 steals in this game. But overall, besides him, the Kuzma and Porzingis didn't really get much help, and they cooled down as the game went on. Kuzma had 30 points at the end of the third quarter. He only had 5 in the fourth. And Porzingis had 30 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 blocks. He was absolutely incredible in this game. But they started to cool down, and I'll give Kawhi Leonard a lot of credit. He started guarding Porzingis a lot down the stretch and doing a magnificent job, including when the Clippers were up 3 with only a couple of seconds left in the game, around, I want to say 30 seconds. Kawhi Leonard blocked a Kristaps Porzingis shot. Actually, he didn't get credit for the block. I guess they're just going to say it was a good contest, but it was a really terrible shot by Kristaps Porzingis. And I think in the fourth quarter, you could see the inexperience of the Washington Wizards and just kind of the lack of basketball IQ per se that they had compared to the Clippers, who obviously have been in so many big playoff situations and stuff like that in their careers. Porzingis and Kuzma, when they even played in playoff situations, they had a Luka or LeBron that were, had all the pressure on them. This is kind of their, they're getting a chance to go through these kind of moments as leaders of this team. And I thought the Clippers did a pretty good job closing. And Marcus Morris Sr., made a big shot late in the game. But Paul George, funny enough, he scored a bucket with like 2 minutes left in the game. And then even though he had like 36 points, he put the Clippers up 105-103. And even though he had 36 points, or 34 points, or, over 30, he did not shoot for the rest of the game, which I thought was very interesting because he was the best player on the night for the Clippers, and you started to see them kind of go towards Kawhi, which I don't mind. I mean, Kawhi is the guy that won us the game against Charlotte, and he is our best player, and the Clippers want to make him feel like the best player as he starts getting his legs back underneath him and stuff. But one guy that was a huge reason the Clippers closed this game out was Nico Batum. He was really struggling with his three-point shot in this game. He was 1 for 5 at one point. He may have been 1 for 6, I forget. But he hit 3 of them in the fourth quarter. So talk about clutch. Shout out to Blue Bucks. Fourth quarter. Why Batum in? That's why he's in. He hitting big threes. 110-107 was the go-ahead 3 by Batum with 23 seconds left on a Kawhi Leonard assist. Why did he get that assist? Because he was double-teaming the post. So even when Kawhi Leonard is 5 for 13 on the night, he had just scored shortly before that with a minute left in the game to put the Clippers up 2. And he garners that attention even still and is able to make plays for his teammates. Clippers win it 114-107. Still so much to talk about, including something I learned about Ty Lue in this game. Something that he's been doing for a little while now, but I'm starting to see the pattern. Going to be talking about what that is coming up. You ever lose track of all the platforms you're subscribed to? Do you feel like you're wasting money on subscriptions? I just got a 10 texts from Netflix that, my account details were messed up and have you canceled your subscription or not? I don't even know if anybody in my family uses Netflix anymore. 80% of people have subscriptions they forgot about. Maybe for you, it's an unused Amazon Prime account or a Hulu account that never gets streamed. There's this great app I use that helps me track all of my expenses, and because of it, I no longer waste money on subscriptions I don't even use. You might have heard of it. It's called Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill. Cancel unnecessary subscriptions with Rocket Money today. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Seriously, it could save you hundreds per year. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, so if you want to talk about the biggest theme per se or takeaway from that first segment, I would say Paul George shooting over 20 times is the biggest reason the Clippers won the game. We've been calling out for that for a long time. What happens when Paul George shoots over 20 times? And for him to shoot 27 times, was very efficient in doing so, was a huge reason the Clippers came out with a 114-107 win and outscored the Wizards 28-23 in the fourth quarter. Now, as I said, it's also the Wizards just went cold. I want to sit here and tell you it was great Clipper defense. I think it was good Clipper defense, but I think they just went cold because they were making tough shots all night, particularly Kuzma and Porzingis. But Paul George, 36 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, 13 for 27 from the field, 5 for 12 from deep. So shot well from 3, shot a lot of them, but I thought he shot good ones. And because he started making them early, they weren't forced. They were in rhythm. He deserved and earned the right to take them. 5 for 5 from the line. And then, as I said, 13 for 27 from the field. I still think when the Clippers were down, Paul George was doing some things to, worsen the situation. Like there was a time where Kawhi Leonard kicked it out to him and he wanted to repost. Paul George just swung it to the other side. A couple of bad landing space fouls. And just a couple of times where I had those what the hell Paul moments. But as long as he plays well and the Clippers win, that's all that matters. A guy that didn't really play very well in this game, and I really want to talk about a certain tendency I've noticed in terms of Ty Lue, is Ivica Zubats. So, there are certain games where he just will get outplayed by the opposing center, and he looks like an entirely different player. Like a player that does not look confident, that's fumbling the ball like he's Kwame Brown in the mid-2000s, like just not sharp on defense like he normally is. And then Ty Lue will just sit him out and go small for such long portions of the game and just be like, kind of assess to himself, this isn't a Zoo game. And this was one of those nights. And this is the type of stuff that made people last season say Clippers should look to trade Zoo, which I always have disagreed with and I will continue to disagree with, especially considering he's been the Clippers' best player this season. Yes, in my opinion, best player over Paul George this season, because he's also been available for every game. In this game, he only had 4 points and 5 rebounds on 2 of 5 shooting. And the thing is, Porzingis, he was scoring on him here and there, but a lot of times when Porzingis was scoring, it wasn't like it was just one-on-one against Zoo. In the pick and roll, Zoo was struggling a little bit, but I think mostly offensively he was weird. Like, I think in the beginning of the game, when it was John Wall, Paul George, and Kawhi, I think that the Clippers didn't really go to straight Zoo high pick and rolls as much, which is a little interesting. I thought they were doing a lot of trying to do a little small pick and roll, or wings guard pick and roll, or throw the ball to Kawhi in the mid post, or throw the ball to Paul George and let him work. But then you started to see later in that first quarter, when Paul George and Zubac started going to the pick and roll, they started getting some good looks. Paul George came off some screens for threes. There was one time where he got in the lane for this beautiful, looked kind of like a little running hook, but just a nice layup where he put a little bit of a hook shot kind of spin on it. Paul George did. But Zubac, there was one play where he got a switch with Goodwin on him, and he missed a chippy right in the restricted area that he's made with his eyes closed this season. It was a weird game for Zoo. He only played 20 minutes, and the Clippers went to their small ball lineup, and they did pretty well with it. Now, Moses Brown also played in this game for 7 minutes in the first half, and this was a game where you saw why Clipper fans, a lot of them, including myself, have been calling for Moussa Diabate to play. And to not be on the G League constantly, where he's absolutely killing. Go check out his G League numbers lately. He's been dominating. I think he just had a 20-20 game for Ontario. It's criminal that he's not playing, because Moses Brown, you started to see kind of his lack of foot speed and his lack of trust in his own foot speed with how far he was sagging off in drop coverage on screens. And the Wizards were walking into buckets, and that led Ty Lue to say, you know what? Even though Moses is 2 for 2 with 4 points, got an offensive rebound and put it back up and in, he looks okay on offense, he's not going to play in the second half. So for a large stretch, for the majority of that second half, the Clippers did not have a center out there. And you know why that can work? Because Kristaps Porzingis is not your bruiser type of center that's going to dominate you in the paint. His advantage is going to be shooting over the top. He doesn't like to post up. He doesn't have the best lower body strength relative to NBA players, which I noticed watching him in Dallas over and over against the Clippers. His best bet is to go to a decent area in the mid post, like 10 feet away, and then try to shoot and turn around over his smaller defender, because he doesn't like to just bully people or work really hard off the ball to go post up deep. He doesn't do that. And then another guy that was coming in when Porzingis was out that wasn't taking advantage of size was Daniel Gafford, who I actually am pretty high on. But Brandon Boston would get switched on to him, and he wouldn't even try to go get the ball. He wouldn't try to post up or do anything, which was very interesting. And by the way, that's another topic of conversation, that Brandon Boston was playing instead of Amir Coffey and Robert Covington. Now, I am a big Brandon Boston fan. In this game, he was 1 for 3, didn't do much. I thought Kuzma and Porzingis took advantage of him just a little bit when he got switched on to them. But Brandon Boston Jr. will have his time. I don't mind him playing, especially because he's played decently recently. That rhymes. But Robert Covington kind of being shunned to the bench like this game after game, I'm not a huge fan of it. I like Rocco. I like what he brings to the table. And I think that let's try to get him back going again like he was last season. That's just my opinion. But overall, Clippers went to that small ball lineup. I'm not even sure if Zubac came back into the game after the 7:25 mark of the third quarter. That's when he came out. And the Clippers went to that small ball for the rest of the game for the most part, from my memory. I'm going to double check right now. But another guy who I thought was really good in this game, Luke Kennard. You'll obviously remember his huge game last season at Washington to come back from 35 points down for the Clips and hit a 4-point play to win him the game. I know those memories were serving really well for Luke. He had a pretty good game in this one with a couple of threes in the second half. 3 for 7 from the field, 3 for 6 from deep, 10 points, 3 rebounds, but also 5 assists for young Nuke, and a plus 18 in his minutes. That was the second highest of any Clipper, behind Nicholas Batum, who hit 3 of his 4 threes in the fourth quarter, ended up shooting 4 for 10 from deep, had 12 points and 6 boards, and was a plus 19. Nico's been on a tear lately. And coming up, going to be talking about Kawhi Leonard's performance in more detail, but also the return of John Wall and how he played. He had an emotional moment in the first and second quarter. Going to be talking about that coming up. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available? That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. I got my Rams ambassador job on LinkedIn, but if you want to post about hiring for a job, add your job and that purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to hire, interview and hire. Let's finish the year strong and find that right team member for you. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, to close it out, let's talk about Kawhi a little bit. So Kawhi Leonard actually started out really well in this game. 4 for 6 in the first half. Made one of his open threes on a beautiful ball reversal from the Clippers and a nice extra pass by Paul George. His shot was from the left corner, and I knew the second he released it that it was going in. The legs looked good. Didn't look like he had to force it or push too hard or try too hard. But most of Kawhi's misses were like 18 feet and deeper. And I've always said since the moment he came to the Clippers that Kawhi Leonard between 10 to 15 feet is like automatic. From 18 and further, it's a little different. I think it's because he has such a flat shot. And sometimes it just seems like it's more suited for 10 to 15 range, like just to go straight in. Whereas you kind of need some more arc sometimes when you're shooting deeper. And I think he just is going to, that's his shot. That's, he has a flat shot. But it goes straight in at times, but he needs the legs, and that's what he's still working back to get. I don't think he's going to just be terrible from 3 the whole season, but maybe he will be. Maybe he doesn't have the elevation he used to anymore. Who knows? I wouldn't go with that, though. I think he's going to be fine. You're starting to see improvement anyway. He was 1 for 5 in this game from deep. The only one he made was the one I just described. But on the bright side, 4 for 8 from 2. And 4 for 6 in the first half. He cooled down for a bit in that third quarter and then didn't shoot for a while after. But he had a big bucket late going to the rim and putting the Clippers up 2. And I just still think that he did really good things. And one thing I love about the way Kawhi is playing so far is his defense is still really good. Like, the only thing you can say about him is he's gotten beaten back door a couple of times off the ball. But that's something that he used to... If you have any one defensive weakness for Kawhi, it's that sometimes he can get lost off the ball. But it's magnified more when Kawhi gets scored on because it's Kawhi getting scored on. So you're like, oh my God, Kawhi Leonard got scored on because he has that reputation and that standard we hold him to as a defender, as a 2-time defensive player of the year, that it feels weird when anyone scores on him. But that's his one. If you had to look for one weakness, if you're really nitpicking, he gets beat off the ball sometimes. But his defense has been so good so far this season. Like, really solid laterally still. People still have that intimidation when seeing him. Even Porzingis, you could see it was totally different when he was going against Kawhi than anyone else. Kawhi did such a good job of getting in his airspace and making him afraid to get offensive fouls if he pushed forward or swung his elbows. So really good stuff from Kawhi. And then rebounding. I love watching Kawhi just grab rebounds out of the air with those big mitts of his. 13 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists for Kawhi, and he didn't turn the ball over. So, again, and 30 minutes. So he's slowly starting to get back into it. I just want to bang my head against the wall to pray. No more injuries. No more injuries. I want to see Kawhi Leonard get 10 games straight where he is only missing games because it's a back-to-back for load management and no other reason. that he continues to play, because this way we will get a star player back again. Will we get the 2021 version of him? I'm not sure. We got to hope for that. But we will get a better version of him. And it's not like he's bad now, but he's not that super. Right now, Paul George is clearly the best player on the Clippers. Clearly. Yes, I said Ivica Zubac has been the best player on the Clippers performance-wise, but the best player on this team right now is Paul George. And he proved it in this game. But Kawhi Leonard was great. As for some other guys, Marcus Morris, a much-needed bounce-back game for him. I actually thought he also had some really good moments defensively, helping at just the right times when the defender got beaten. There were at least 2 shots that he prevented from going into the basket because his well-timed help made the difference. He had 19 points and 6 boards in this game, played a little bit of small ball 5, and held his own. 5 for 10 from the field, 5 for 8 from deep, and 4 for 4 from the line. And he also didn't turn the ball over at all along with Kawhi. So big stuff from Senior. Needed that. Really happy to see that happen. Hopefully that propels him to have a big game on Monday against the best team in basketball right now, the Boston Celtics. John Wall started out a little bit cold. Every single 3, except for I think the first one he shot that was early in the game, came with 8 or more seconds on the shot clock. So I really don't think we need those. I really think those are settles and bailouts. And the defense is going to give the Clippers that all day long. They're gonna give John Wall that. I think he's got to be more aggressive and pass up some of those shots, unless they come off great ball movement. And some of those weren't. They were just sagging off a little bit. But John Wall had a great stretch in the second quarter where he cut the game to a 1-point game. And when he's in transition, it is a show in itself, even still. I mean, he's incredible the way he turns on the jets and just can gain acceleration even at this age. He had a couple of nice layups, and then he hit a mid-range jumper and told the crowd, hey, this is still my house. This is still my court. And the crowd loved it. You could hear the cheers. I mean, even for a road player. And I think they still, and as they should, consider him one of their own. But John Wall had a better game as it went on. I just think he can still do without the threes. Because other than that, he was 4 for 9 from 2. 5 for 9 from 2. So he's very efficient from 2-point range. Just the threes I think he can do without. 13 points, 3 assists, 2 turnovers for John. Talked about everybody else. I think Terrence Mann, it was great to see him back from concussion protocols. Only played 12 minutes, though. It was a very quiet game for Terrence standards. A donut for him, 0 for 2. But I think he'll be really good against Boston. That's his hometown team, of course, from Lowell, Massachusetts. Shout out to Lowell. But yeah, that's basically it. Clippers only shot 42.6% from the field, 39.6% from deep. So that's the thing that I was really going to be disappointed about had the Clippers not won, is that they were shooting well from deep. And also another game of shooting well from the foul line, 15 for 16, so 94%. Kyle Kuzma finished with 35 and 12, but he did turn the ball over 6 times, which was almost half of the entire team's turnovers. Then Porzingis, 30 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 assists. The Clippers were double-teaming Porzingis a lot, and he was making some really good reads. I was pretty impressed with that. 8 for 20 for him, 2 for 4 from 3. So the fact that he shot 16 twos in a game where he shot 20 shots, I mean, I kind of like it from Porzingis. I do. Because I think he settles way too much. And he got to the foul line 13 times. So he's definitely looking a lot better. Clippers, though, win it 114-107 with a late surge. They take the game after a go-ahead 3 by Nico Batum. Kawhi Leonard is looking better, ladies and gentlemen. Paul George looked a lot better. Ty Lue, when Zubac isn't playing well and gets outplayed by a certain guy, which in this game was Porzingis. And by the way, Porzingis had this amazing block on Zoo when he caught the ball on a roll. It was impressive. I think it's just, I don't know, a little quicker, more athletic bigs can give Zoo a hard time. But we'll see how he fares on Monday against the Celtics. No Al Horford, still no Robert Williams, so he's going to probably see guys like Luke Cornett and, oh man, our old friend, our dear 32, forever in our hearts, Blake Griffin. Going to be a tough game, but thankfully, the Clippers will have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and Luke Kennard and Terrence Mann and Marcus Morris, everybody but Norman Powell, and I think Moussa Diabate. Go Clippers. Going to be a fun one to see how they stack up against the league's best. Remember to comment on today's pinned question, and that is, should the Clippers look for a Kuz trade? Who would you be willing to deal for him? Because, man, if that was an audition, he passed the test with flying colors. Make sure you listen to Locked On Sports today for your next listen. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. And remember to subscribe to my own YouTube channel known as Dime Dropper and follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dime Dropper Pod. Peace out, everyone. Have a good day. And the age-old proverb, go Clippers. Be back on Tuesday after hopefully a Clipper win over the best team in basketball.